Another bonus pod with more bad news. Michael Thomas going to miss some weeks to start the season after having ankle surgery in June. Adam Azer and Jamie Eisenberg here reacting quickly to this news. We don't have a definitive timetable yet, but you're about to hear where Jamie's putting Michael Thomas in his rankings. We're expecting an extended absence as of right now, as of Friday, July 23rd. Jamie, is Michael Thomas still the first Saints wide receiver you are drafting?
It's a great question. Yes, he still will be the first Saints wide receiver I'm drafting. First off, when you tweet out the link for this, don't sound excited because you got some flack for sounding too happy, apparently, about Cam Akers being injured, which was totally crap. I think, look, it sucks, obviously. It sucks that it sounds like, he's going to be out. So the surgery was in June, and there's a 4-month timetable according to the NFL Network. So if you look at it, their bye is week 6. They play the Seahawks in week 7. Then they have a 2-game turnaround against the Bucs and the Falcons in weeks 8 and 9. So 2 huge divisional games. So that seems to be the window where he's probably going to return, which puts us near the end of October, beginning of November. If we don't have, any definitive answers until then, this is a guy that you're going to have to draft with significant risk because we have the quarterback situation and the concerns there, not knowing exactly how we'll do a full season without Drew Brees. We clearly have some small sample sizes, 2019 with Teddy Bridgewater, 2020 with Taysom Hill. But there's obviously risk involved now. Now you have the potential of what if there's a re-injury? What if there's a setback in his recovery and he's out until the end of November and you're not getting a player that you have to carry on your roster until the end of the season. So you have to sort of take this with, okay, am I getting a player that's going to be a difference maker, or am I getting a player that's going to be an albatross on my fantasy team? It's just a matter of, I think, how you sort of have your roster build and what your bench spaces are and how long you can carry somebody. Certainly, if you have an IR spot, he's worth picking up.
Yes, I'm glad you brought that up because, last year, I think a lot of teams added IR spots, and sometimes they just used them for players who went on the COVID IR list. But I had never played with IR spots before. And, in some of our leagues, I was allowed to put just injured players, players who were on IR, not players who were,
short-term IR.
Short-term IR in my IR spot. And I thought it was great. I really liked it. So I recommend it. And if you have an IR spot, then you could put Michael Thomas on it. Then I think, he goes up a few rounds probably. Possibly, depending on how many bench spots you have. But all right, where are you going to end up with Michael Thomas in your rankings? And by the way, we're going to talk about the rest of the Saints and how it's going to impact them. Alvin Kamara played 8 games without Michael Thomas last year, and he averaged 7 catches per game. He was on pace for 112 catches. Now it was broken down a little bit differently. It was the first 6 games that Thomas missed early in the season. He had 8 or more catches in 5 of those 6 games. Then he played 2 more games, weeks 15 and 16, without Michael Thomas. Kamara had only 3 catches in both of those games, but one of those games was the 6-touchdown rushing game. So he
didn't need to catch the ball in that game.
Right, exactly. But a huge part of the passing game, all of those games were with Drew Brees at quarterback, I believe. So you can't just say the numbers are going to translate, but it was a huge, huge boost in the passing game for Alvin Kamara. Let's start with Thomas. Where are you ranking him?
I haven't done it yet, so I apologize for anybody that's listening to this because we have to react to the news on our various platforms. So I'm thinking somewhere in the Odell Beckham range, which is late 30s, because it kind of feels something similar, with a player that if you get the right performance out of him, could be significant. It'll probably be a couple spots lower than that, to be honest with you. But I think you just have to understand that he's in the range now of guys that are iffy. And that's what sucks, So if he's able to, we get closer to the season, we get through training camp and Sean Payton's going to talk and, you get some updates and hopefully we, hear he's trending in the right direction and they were just being cautious with the 4-month timetable, that maybe he's back by the bye week, then you're a little bit more comfortable with it. But it's just the uncertainty right now that you have to sort of bake into it and realize that if he's out till the end of November, maybe into December, especially if their team is playing well and they want to be cautious with him to have him back for the playoffs, then that's where it's going to become frustrating. So I think somewhere late 30s, early 40s, so round 7, round 8 is where I think you'll start to consider him. Like you said, if there's IR spot and you want to take a gamble on him ahead of some other younger receivers that you may want to take some flyers on, you can certainly go that route too. But
Judy or Michael,
I'd rather have Judy.
Marquise Brown.
That's the spot, so I'd probably take a chance on Michael Thomas over Marquise Brown.
Okay. Let's talk about the rest of the Saints here. So there were two games that, well, there were a bunch of games that Traquan Smith played without Michael Thomas, but really it was Emmanuel Sanders who was pretty good. In fact, if he were still on the Saints, I'd be pretty interested in drafting him, but he's not. So there were two games that Traquan Smith played without both Michael Thomas and Emmanuel Sanders, and he was fine. He was around 50 yards, didn't score in either game, got like 7-ish targets in both games. Just looking at Drew Brees' numbers in those games, he was good, not great. He threw for 287 and 2 and 280 and 2 in those games. And Traquan Smith, I don't know. He's a lot of hype, or has been, not a ton of production. So it was 11 targets in the two games, 4 in one and 7 in the other. Anyway, is he your highest? Is he your next Saints wide receiver? Is he the one you're looking at? And when would you draft Traquan Smith?
He's the one I'm looking at. He's going to go after Thomas. He's still a late round pick because, again, we just don't know when Thomas is going to return. And they're going to bring somebody else in. This isn't like the Rams saying that they're not going to bring in a running back yet. You've already seen reports that the Saints are going to start to, look at wide receivers. Kenny Stills, who played with the Saints, played for Sean Payton, is out there. Golden Tate, somebody they can look at. These are obviously not names that are difference makers, but they're guys that could command targets. Alshon Jeffrey, if he's right, I've seen some people suggesting that. D.D. Westbrook is a guy who's out there who obviously has played some in the league. There's going to be guys who are going to get cut, or potential trade targets, that you're going to hear some names that are out there, could be, like a Sterling Shepard, for example. The Giants want to open up a spot for Kadarius Toney, if he's 100%, I'm just, again, spitballing some names out there. So there'll be some guys that'll come in and that they'll look at and consider. So you have to sort of wait to see what happens there. The guy that I'm still the most excited about would be Adam Trautman because, his targets, his routes should still be the same. You don't know what the Saints are going to do. Are they going to force a guy like Traquan Smith to play Michael Thomas's role? It's going to be Marquez Callaway who steps into, doing those type of things. Do they put Kamara in some more wide receiver spots to, get him out and maybe put Latavius Murray in some situations? So I still take a late round flyer on Traquan Smith. He's obviously going to be bumped up a few spots, but I wouldn't be like overly excited to draft him, ahead of Thomas, for example, as your question was earlier, who's the first Saints wide receiver that'll come off the board.
Yeah. So how about, say, like Elijah Moore or Rondale Moore, these rookies that we're taking a shot on late? Would you take Traquan Smith ahead of them?
I was already doing that to begin with. So yes,
really?
So Traquan for me is, in the, like I would take him over Corey Davis, for example, so they were close to begin with, just a veteran guy who is, I'm not excited about. I'd still take Mike Williams over Traquan Smith, if we're talking about some guys that have some more upside.
Marvin Jones.
I take Marvin Jones ahead of him, just because Jones could potentially be the number one receiver for the Jaguars, just based on his history with Darrell Bevell. Okay.
And any like 16 team or 14 team deep wide receivers for the Saints?
Callaway would be the one. I think he's going to be the second receiver. I think he was going to have an opportunity to be the third receiver there. But again, they're going to bring somebody in. They may have a reunion with Des Bryant too. So Sean Payton is not afraid to go get a veteran guy. And look, we thought, I'll go back to Ben Gretsch last year, and this is no fault of Ben's, but if you recall, when Michael Thomas was healthy going into the season, these conversations last year, we're talking about bust. Remember, Ben said you shouldn't draft Emmanuel Sanders, and I wasn't necessarily co-signing that, but I agreed with him to a certain extent because what did you expect from Emmanuel Sanders if everybody was healthy? And then we saw Michael Thomas go down and Sanders played a significant role. So Sean will get creative with somebody. Sean Payton will get creative with somebody, whoever he brings in, and we'll see who that receiver is, which could impact, have a trickle-down effect because, again, Thomas is not out for the season as of now.
Right.
So if they bring in somebody else to sort of, put a Band-Aid on this, that receiver could still have a role. So, again, I don't think you want to go overly get overexcited or get, too crazy with Traquan Smith in your drafts. He definitely gets a boost. But to what extent, we'll have to find out when Thomas is out.
Yeah. And as far as Thomas goes, you also have to ask, is he going to be just back to being Michael Thomas when he comes back? We don't know the answer. Maybe it takes a week or two to shake some rust off. All right. So let's talk about Adam Trautman then. And will he actually, I don't know where you have him ranked. Is he going to crack your top 12 if he's not there already? I'm sure he's not.
He's been a top 12 tight end for me for a long time. Very excited about him. Stepping into Jared Cook's role. He fits the pedigree of a guy that you look at with a good college, career. Second year breakout type of guy because there's an opportunity. The Saints tight ends over the last 2 seasons, 21 touchdowns. Obviously, the most of that has come from Drew Brees. And if it's Jameis Winston as the starter, that's a benefit because as we've talked about a lot on this podcast, Jameis Winston's history with his tight ends going back to Florida State, you can certainly see what he's capable of doing. But Trautman, I think, is locked into his role. Targets should certainly be a boost for him now. Middle of the field is going to be something I think that's going to be important for him, and the routes that he runs and the quarterback and whoever that's going to be leaning on him. So Trautman is still a very good late round flyer. If we're going great or late, he's one of the guys you should put at the top of the late category. Certainly if we get past the Irv Smiths and the Noah Fants, for me, he's in that next group and leading that next group.
Okay, right. So you say great or late. Is he still going to be a late round pick, or is he going to? Can I make a case for him right after Dallas Goedert, who's the tight end 7 or 8 for everybody on this list? For everybody, it's if you're looking at the rankings on our website, he's obviously Trautman's not going to go ahead of Kelsey, Waller, Kittle, Hawkinson, Andrews, and Pitts. No chance. Goddard, I doubt it. But then after that, it's Fant, it's Irv Smith, it's Tunyon, it's Higbee, it's Logan Thomas. Can I make a case? I can make a case for Trautman ahead of Smith, ahead of all these guys, because he could have he could have the most targets on the team. I see a path to it. I don't think it'll happen, but at least for the first however long Thomas is out.
Yeah, I mean, I guess as we're talking about this, I could see myself ranking him ahead of those guys. It's just, you always get a little concerned when you haven't seen a guy do anything yet, and I know that's hard to say when we're talking about Pitts as well, but Trautman's got quarterback concerns still. He's got, still another pretty significant player on the field to share the ball with in Kamara. But like you said, the path to targets are there. If Thomas misses significant time, then he may be their best pass catcher. He could be the same type of player that we're talking about with TJ Hawkinson. I don't know if Goddard's the right person to compare him to, because we might be dropping Goddard if Ertz stays on the roster, as the reports have sort of indicated recently. So if Ertz is still on the Eagles, I don't think you could say Dallas Goedert's locked into the 7th spot. So yeah, once you get past the top 6 guys with Pitts and Hawkinson, being the tail end of that group, then I think you could make a case for Trautman to be that next guy off the board. I think most people would still take Noah Fant, but Trautman's going to definitely be in that conversation for sure.
Well, hearing the way we're talking about this, if you're doing a draft anytime soon and you can get Trautman, 4 rounds later than, or even 2 or 3 rounds later than Irv Smith or Dallas Goedert, Noah Fant, like that group, maybe it makes sense. Maybe you just take the round value here, because we're going to have to see. We're going to have to see what the reports are. Oh, Adam Trautman's looking great. That's going to boost him up if you get one of those. Adam Trautman could lead the team in targets. Some weird fantasy guy might say something like that. That could boost his value. All right, so then let's talk about Kamara real quick. Is this a boost for him? And what about Latavius Murray? Do they just need to be more run heavy now? And maybe Murray is more valuable. Maybe they change their offense a little bit. They do not have a good passing game. I can't see them having a good passing game without Michael Thomas and Drew Brees.
So this is probably a 2-part question, because based on what you said, which I agree with, if I'm the Saints, I'm probably starting Taysom Hill. I know Jameis is going to come in and try and win the job, and if he looks great, it's hard to say don't start him, but you got to sort of be unorthodox, right? Because, you're down Michael Thomas, and Taysom Hill was successful last year. He gives them a different element to the run game overall. And so if you don't have to necessarily say we have to make the passing game the priority of our offense, which sounds weird to say in 2021 for any NFL team, but you could sort of take a Ravens approach. You could take a Titans approach. You could say the run game is going to be what carries us until Michael Thomas is back on the field. And so maybe Taysom is the better quarterback to sort of, lead this team. So it'll be interesting to see how that impacts that decision. But yeah, I think, you heard the reports this offseason after Drew Brees retired that they were going to become a little bit more run heavy. And so Alvin Kamara is the number 3 running back in PPR for sure. You can still make a case that he's number 4 in non-PPR because of Derrick Henry. And we're talking about Christian McCaffrey and Dalvin Cook being the top 2 guys. I think I'm going to put Kamara 3 in both formats, just because I think he's going to be this offense. He's going to be their best player. He may have already been their best player to begin with, but, I don't want to slight Michael Thomas. So I think Kamara is locked in. And yes, Latavius Murray does get a boost, because I think he'll get more carries, get more opportunities in the passing game as well, because they can't just put everything on Kamara's plate. So Murray gets bumped up a few spots. Kamara's locked into the top 3 or top 4. And I will see who is the starting quarterback for New Orleans now.
So just real quick, would you take Latavius Murray or Zach Moss?
That's a great question, because I'm a Zach Moss guy. I think I'd probably still take Zach Moss, because I think there's a clearer path to him being the guy as opposed to, Murray needing an injury. But, Murray now is probably the head of the number 2 running backs, not named Kareem Hunt, so ahead of Jamal Williams, ahead of Devin Singletary, ahead of Tony Pollard, ahead of those guys that you were drafting as potential lottery tickets. Like, I know I had a tough call just in the Scott Fish Bowl, which ended up hurting me, for example, because I took Cam Akers and I had a choice of Darrell Henderson Jamal Williams, Latavius Murray. Those are three guys I was debating. And I was like, okay, if I get a chance to get one of those guys in their respective backfields, or who has the best chance to be a contributor in their backfields, I took Jamal Williams just because it's a half PPR league, and I thought he's going to have a bigger role in the passing game than those other two guys. So I failed in that regard. But Murray is now somebody that I think you should consider ahead of that group for sure, and somebody with a mid-round pick.
All right. And then I guess we can talk about this on another show, but no, let's talk about it now. All right. Just real quick. Whoever's named the starting quarterback, are you still interested in them?
I think, that was a Heath level side. I think I'll go back to what I've said from the beginning. If it's Jameis, they're both playing. If it's Taysom, how long is he going to be the starter? So, I had originally Taysom ranked in the top 15 when I first did my rankings for 2021. I since went to Jameis. The reports last week about Taysom being, the potential front runner. I just dropped both guys outside of the top 24, so I still have Jameis ranked the highest at 25. He's definitely somebody you want to consider in 2 quarterback and super flex leagues, but I don't really want to trust either one in a 1 quarter. Like, I'd rather take a chance on Roethlisberger. I'd rather take a chance on Fitzpatrick. I'd rather go with Kirk Cousins, who I know at least I'm going to know what I'm getting. And at this point, I'd rather take flyers on Trey Lance and Justin Fields. It just feels messy all the way around, especially if Thomas is going to miss half the season. So it's probably hands off across the board for the Saints quarterbacks.
Now we got a question: Kamara, Zeke, or Henry? And Jamie just said he's going to put Kamara third, at least certainly in PPR.
He's already there. So
yeah. And in non PPR, he might do it too. So that means in half PPR, you would take Kamara over Henry.
Yes, any PPR format, I would take Kamara over Henry, and that's one I'll debate is Henry versus Kamara in non PPR.
Yeah, I just wonder if Kamara's hurt by being in what's certainly going to be the worst offense he's ever been in. That's another like he might benefit in the game and have more catches because they need him to. He might have more carries because they need him to have more carries. But this is going to be a potentially bad offense, or maybe average. But it will be worse than what he's used to.
Right. And look, let's be fair. If Jameis is the starter, physically, from a physical standpoint, forget about the mental aspect of it. He's going to be a physically better quarterback than Drew Brees was last year. Drew Brees was obviously very accurate. He knows the game better than Jameis probably ever will. And he knows how to get guys open, with anticipation and those things and using his accuracy in his mind. But Jameis is going to be a different quarterback. And so if he's not making mistakes, maybe this offense, and I'm talking about the offense that they saw last year without Michael Thomas, maybe the offense could be better, in terms of what they have. Now, they don't have an Emmanuel Sanders, but I know where you're going. But, just from a standpoint of if Jameis is making different throws or Taysom is doing different things, maybe the offense could still be better. Personnel-wise, it's obviously worse. And again, I'm just talking about the Michael Thomas-less games that Kamara played in last year where he was the focal point of the offense.
Right. All right, so a lot to unpack here. Luckily, we don't have most people aren't drafting now. We have plenty of time to see what happens.
I mean, think about this, Adam. We haven't gotten to August yet, and we've already lost 2 top 24 picks.
It sucks. Yeah.
And now you have Saquon Barkley on the PUP list, which we expected, or at least thought there was a possibility. Amari Cooper's on the PUP list. Is this a precursor of another frustrating season of injuries?
Yeah, I'm not willing to go there yet, but
Aaron Rodgers may not play. Devontae Adams is pissed off as well. I mean, what's going on?
It's Friday. Okay, enough of this.
Could you imagine? Because that's the week 1 game, by the way, is Saints-Packers. Could you imagine a situation where no Aaron Rodgers, maybe no Devontae Adams now, no Michael Thomas now? How depressing. That could have been one of the best games of the season.
Is it a primetime game?
I don't know.
It probably is. But yeah, all right, great. Hey, Giants Broncos, everybody, week 1, flex it. We'll talk to you on Monday, unless there's more breaking news. Check out Fantasy Football Today and 5 for some player profiles over the weekend of Travis Etienne and the Sunday one. Who was Elijah Moore? A couple of rookies that we can break down, tell you what the advanced stats say and what their roles might be on their respective teams. It's really good stuff on Fantasy Football Today and 5. And if you like these bonus podcasts, please show us some love by going to podcastawards.com/app/sign up. The link is in the episode description. Nominate Fantasy Football Today. We want to win this thing in the sports category. Podcastawards.com. Nominate Fantasy Football Today in the sports category. Thanks to Jamie. Thanks to Ben Schrager for setting this up. Thanks to all of you for watching and listening. I'm Adam Azer. We'll talk to you Monday.